Army Sergeant William David Port took his oath to protect his fellow soldiers seriously. In Vietnam, when a grenade landed among his platoon mates, he didn't hesitate to give his life to save them. Port was born October 31, 1941 in Petersburg, Pennsylvania to Paul and Cecile Port. He had 3 brothers and a sister. Port was married and had a son and 2 daughters. He worked for a few years as a candy manufacturer in Pennsylvania before he was drafted into the Army in March of 1967 at the height of the Vietnam War. 5 months later, he was shipped to the Southeast Asian country to serve as a rifleman with Company C of the 5th Battalion, 7th Cavalry, 1st Air Cavalry Division. On January 12, 1968, then PFC Port's platoon was on its way to cut off a group of enemy soldiers in the Quezon Valley when they came under heavy fire from an entrenched enemy force. The intensity of the gunfire required them to quickly withdraw. Port was wounded in the hand during the initial firefights. Despite the continuing gunfire, he ran through the area to help a wounded soldier get back to the safety of the platoon's perimeter. As the assault continued, Port and 3 other soldiers were taking cover behind an embankment when an enemy grenade landed in their midst. Without any concern for himself, Port shouted, "Grenade!" to warn his fellow soldiers of the danger before hurling himself on top of the device as it exploded. According to newspaper reports, a medic worked on Port's injuries for more than 2 hours as the fight continued, but eventually heavier enemy fire forced the unit to withdraw, and since Port appeared to be gravely injured, they were forced to leave him behind. The sacrifice, however, saved the lives of at least 3 men. Port was initially listed by the Army as missing in action. Service later learned that the North Vietnamese had taken him as a prisoner and that he had died on November 27, 1968, and was buried in a jungle grave with 8 other men. Port's courage and devotion to duty were not overlooked. He was posthumously promoted to sergeant, and on August 6, 1970, his widow and 2 of his children received the Medal of Honor on his behalf from President Richard Nixon during a White House ceremony. Port's remains were eventually repatriated to the United States. On October 18, 1985, he was buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Port is remembered near his hometown in Huntington, Pennsylvania, where a bridge crossing the Juniata River was named in his honor.